Published 1424 Est, 5 November 2017. Updated 1705 Est, 5 November 2017. Millions of recently leaked documents revealed that Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross has significant business ties to President Vladimir Putin's son-in-law, while Russia funded Facebook and Twitter investments through an associate of Jared Kushner. The newly disclosed 13.4 million documents, called the Paradise Papers, have revealed secrets of more than 120 politicians worldwide, including the secretive dealings of the Queen and the world's biggest businesses, after being published by news organizations around the world on Sunday. The files expose the ways that the rich and powerful are protecting their wealth using a web of offshore accounts. The documents were leaked to the German newspaper Süddeutsche Zeitung, which is the same publication that obtained last year's Panama Papers. The international consortium of investigative journalists led a worldwide effort with 96 media organizations who went through the documents to report on their contents. Among those implicated, the documents show that Ross failed to clearly disclose his interests with Putin's immediate family while he was being confirmed for his cabinet position with Trump's administration. A massive data leak has revealed that Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross above has significant business ties to a Russian oligarch and President Vladimir Putin's son-in-law. Donald Trump's Commerce Secretary, pictured behind the U.S. president, is revealed to have a stake in a firm that deals with Russians who are under sanctions. The newly disclosed documents, called the Paradise Papers, also reveal that two Russian state institutions with close ties to Putin funded substantial investments in Facebook and Twitter via a business associate of Jared Kushner above President Donald Trump's son-in-law and senior White House advisor. Ross, who is a billionaire industrialist, retains an interest in Navigator Holdings, a shipping company that was partially owned by his former investment company, according to NBC News. One of the most crucial business relationships Navigator has is with the Russian energy firm that is controlled by Putin's son-in-law and other key members of Putin's close inner circle. During his confirmation process, not many of the details about his financial holdings were disclosed, but they are now revealed in the trove of millions of internal documents of Appleby, which is a Bermuda-based law firm. When he became Commerce Secretary, Ross shared multiple holdings, but held on to his stake in Navigator. But as Commerce Secretary, he could come under fire since he oversees U.S. trade policy. He told NBC News in a statement that he recuses himself from potential conflicts of interest, and has typically supported sanctions against Russian businesses. Navigator makes millions of dollars shipping resources from major client Sibur. The New York Times reported, the top leadership at Sibur includes Putin's friend, Gennady Timchenko, who has been sanctioned by the U.S., along with Putin's son-in-law Kirill Shamalov. Ross's spokesman told the Times that he never met in any of Sibur's oligarch bosses. The spokesman also said that Navigator's contract with the company was signed before the billionaire industrialist joined its board in 2012. However, records show in November 2011 Ross Company bought into Navigator, which was several months ahead of it chartering its first ships for Sibur. The files include allegations that the Queen's private estate secretly invested huge sums of cash in tax havens. Sibur was not under sanctions at the time the contract was signed and is still not subject to sanctions. Spokesman James Rockers told The Times. The documents also show that Kushner, President Donald Trump's son-in-law and White House advisor, is implicated. Two Kremlin-connected interests and state institutions invested in Facebook and Twitter through one of Kushner's business associates. Those investments were made through Yuri Milner, a Russian technology magnate who holds a stake in a company that's co-owned by Kushner. He funneled money to the social media giants. Back in July, Kushner said during a closed-door Senate Intelligence Committee meeting that he never relied on Russian funds to finance my business activities in the private sector. The father of three is currently ensnared in the Russia investigations over a meeting he held at Trump Tower in New York City back in June 2016, where he met with a Kremlin-connected Russian lawyer. He attended that meeting alongside his brother-in-law Donald Trump Jr. and Paul Manafort, who was just indicted by the special counsel as part of his lobbying work for pro-Russian interests in Ukraine. The documents also name White House economic czar Gary Cohn and Secretary of State Rex Tillerson, and includes allegations that Queen Elizabeth's private estate secretly invested huge sums of cash in tax havens. The duchy, which was set up in 1399 to generate a financial return from the reigning monarch, holds investments via funds in businesses including off-license chain threshers and retailer Bright House. But now the estate stands accused of using offshore private equity funds in the Cayman Islands that shield UK investors from paying US tax on their holdings. Among the more bizarre revelations in the documents is that U2 frontman Bono used a company based in Malta to invest in a Lithuanian shopping centre. Among the more bizarre revelations is that U2 frontman Bono used a company based in Malta to invest in a Lithuanian shopping centre. The singer bought a share of Nude Estates, which went on to purchase the Ozra Mall shortly after it opened in 2007. 5 years later, the business was transferred to a company in Guernsey called Nude Estates 1. Bono's spokeswoman told The Guardian Bono was a passive, minority investor in Nude Estates Malta Limited, a company that was legally registered in Malta until it was voluntarily wound up in 2015. Malta is a well-established holding company jurisdiction within the EU. Bono, real name Paul Hewson, has been fawned over by world leaders since he began touring the globe calling for more third world aid and debt relief. More figures are set to be named during the coming week as more documents are released with the Paradise Papers. The world's top financial institutions are still reeling from last year's enormous Panama Papers data leak revealed how Vladimir Putin's inner circle and a dirty dozen list of world leaders were using offshore tax havens to hide their wealth. A host of celebrities, sports stars, British politicians and the global rich were implicated in that release. The 11 million files contained more data than the amount stolen by former CIA contractor Edward Snowden in 2013. What are the Paradise Papers? More than 13 million leaked secret corporate files, about half of which belong to offshore law and corporate services provider Appleby, which has 10 offices around the globe. There are also documents from corporate registries in 19 tax havens. These are mostly Caribbean and Atlantic islands such as Bermuda, Grenada and the Bahamas, but also include Malta, Lebanon, Labuin and Island Territory in Malaysia, Samoa, Vanuatu, the Cook Islands and the Marshall Islands. They cover the period between 1950 and 2016. Is this the same as the Panama Papers? The Panama Papers involved millions of files leaked from Panamanian law firm Mossack Fonseca, showing how some of their clients laundered money, dodged sanctions and avoided tax. This is a separate leak, although will raise many of the same questions. Who got the documents, and how? The German newspaper Süddeutsche Zeitung obtained the files and shared them with 95 other media organizations around the world. In all, 381 journalists in 67 countries have been analyzing the material for 1 year. Süddeutsche Zeitung has not revealed its source. What did the leaks contain? Documents outlining the tax and financial affairs of hundreds of people and companies connected to Appleby and the 19 tax havens, with many appearing to have invested or sheltered huge amounts of cash in offshore tax havens. Who do they involve? Multinational companies, wealthy individuals, heads of state, politicians and sports stars from around the world, including many from the UK. Some of the biggest names to emerge so far include the Queen, Facebook and Donald Trump's cabinet members and advisors. Why is it controversial to put money offshore? Offshore tax havens typically offer low or zero tax rates to non-residents who keep money there. Experts estimate that around $10 trillion, £7.6 trillion, is held offshore around the world. That money would potentially otherwise be taxed in the owner's home country, meaning governments are potentially missing out on billions in revenue. Critics also say the secrecy makes it easy for companies to hide wrongdoing. Will this cause a row about tax avoidance? Further evidence of the extent of cash being held in tax havens is certain to spur anger and calls for a crackdown on tax avoidance practices. However, recent leaks including the Panama Papers may have created a certain level of leak fatigue, denting the document's impact.